last year when all the media shit happened, there's a few things that come off the back of it. One is it made me pivot and made me think about strategically, who do I want to work with now? Do I want to work with a lot of volume of clients? My clients are the best they've ever been in terms of like who we attract, who we work with. It's either a hell yeah or it's a no. So the building company come off the back of it, competitors or people who didn't like me got a quick win in the marketplace, go them. But it lit a little fire inside of my belly. And then it also made me think about like, hey, you say you want to be this deca-billionaire and you want to build these mega companies and all the rest of it. Well, it's like, if you want to do that shit, you don't think this stuff's going to happen? And it also reinforced the power of brand. Publication like ABC, one of the largest in Australia, powerful. I was in the newspaper in Newcastle, powerful. My play now is, okay, they had their quick win on brand. We'll see who wins long term. I will have a bigger brand than both of those companies put together.
Okay, welcome to Site to Studio. Today we have Jack Henderson from Henderson Advocacy. Thank you for coming.
Mate, thanks for showing me around the factory and the workshop and welcoming me to your office.
Okay, let's get the boring stuff out the way. You're a buyer's agent. Just a quick introductory on...
Yeah, so I run a buyer's agency business. I was a buyer's agent, and that's sort of how I sort of cut my teeth in the industry. And now my role is much more of, I still have some involvement in day-to-day deals and day-to-day transactions, but now my role is more of an advisory role and a leadership role. So I'm growing the company and I'm advising our clients, and then the team, who I am lucky enough to have incredible people work with us, they do a lot of the execution when it comes to client work now.
Okay, so tell us about the structure of the business. What's the team look like? And
there's a few businesses now, so it's not just Henderson Advocacy. It's more the Henderson Group. We've got Henderson Advocacy being the buyer's agency. That's really top of funnel. It's where we acquire all of our customers. That's where we do portfolio planning. Obviously, do acquisition. We now have a company called Endeavour Build, which I'm a major shareholder of. That is now the building company that does all of the renovations, value adds, builds, developments for our clients. We now have asset management that manages all of our clients' assets. And we have a media company as well. Media company is still under Henderson Advocacy, but it's got its own little subpart of the business called No Media.
So in your email signature, it says, knows the time poor are rich thinkers.
Yeah.
Does that sum up the value prop of what you offer to your customers?
I don't know. It's just a quirky email signature. I think the value prop to what we offer our customers is different to every customer. Everyone sees value in a slightly different element. But I think at the end of the day, what I believe we offer our customers is I can teach you what I've done and how it's worked for me, and what we've learned from literally buying hundreds and hundreds and thousands, probably now, properties, and them not having to go through the pain and cost of what most people do in the property sphere. I used buyer's agents when I was building my own portfolio, and it was invaluable. Lots of people have not used experts, and it's cost them a lot of money, a lot more money than it would have cost if I would have used an expert, for example. So that's what we offer. And I've got a pretty clear vision as to what I'm creating, and all of the pieces of the puzzle now are falling into place, of which will allow us to scale. And eventually we'll get to a point where we actually won't do any client services work. So you'll only be able to work with us if you invest inside of the fund. We'll have a fund set up. They'll invest into the fund, and then all of these little pieces of the puzzle now, so Henderson Advocacy and Endeavour Build and No Media and the asset manager, will only service our fund. So
you want to create a vertically integrated property investment business?
Yeah. So, I've always been super interested in wealth creation, not necessarily real estate. So I love wealth. Like Warren Buffett's probably more of an inspiration to me than Donald Trump, for example. Remove the presidential elect thing, but just Donald Trump as a property developer. Most people would know them as like the two big spheres. If you're thinking US,
big G's.
Yeah, or like, Harry Triggerboff, for example, in Australia, or Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's probably more of an inspiration to me. So I love the whole wealth creation and being able to multiply capital and just be so good at it and have so much control and power. And when I say power and control, I mean like of decisions. So at the moment, obviously, or any client services business, you're sort of at the mercy of a client, whether they want to do something or not. Eventually, you get to a point where you've got a brand that is so strong, you don't need to ask clients whether you can and can't do something. You make decisions and people want to invest or not. And then naturally, the stronger the track record, the more money you make people. It's a very easy business. I sat with David Shane, who's a guy who sold Australia's first company for $1 billion in the early 2000s. I sat with him probably 3 months ago and I was telling him all this exciting stuff that I was doing. And I asked him about the fund. Should I set the fund up now? His advice is no, you should focus on what you're doing right now. And anyway, the thing he said about a fund is he said it's the most easy business in the world. All you need to do is make sure that when someone gives you $1, you give them back $1.20. It's that easy. He said, but the first time you don't do that, sayonara to your fund. He actually runs a fund now. So anyway, we digress.
I heard on another podcast that you are heavily influenced by Gary Vee.
Massively, yeah.
And he speaks about, his, he says client service is like getting your face ripped off every day or something like that. But he's building his company to be, what does he say, a communications Death Star. Like what you're saying, a vertically integrated machine that can create a lot of value in the marketplace.
I think about the business we're creating is very similar to what Gary's doing in different sectors. The way that Gary's building his business is he wants to then be able to acquire businesses that have a lot of nostalgia in the marketplace that are now not as popular as they once were, rebuild those businesses through his ecosystem of all the companies he owns and controls, and then resell it. We will do the same thing, except replace business with property or real estate, and that's the model.
What are those sort of arbitrage opportunities or those value add opportunities that you see?
It's going to be different depending on the marketplace, right?
Go big in the future.
Yeah, so I think arbitrage in the future, when you have a fund of scale, it's buying power. It's being able to move before the market moves. So
Speed of transaction?
Yeah, speed of transaction, volume of transaction, and then like moving before the market moves. So if you've got a lot of capital, the normal term is land banking. So you can move before the market gets there. For example, we think Sydney, second airport now in Sydney that's being built. People who land bank that land, who got in early, as soon as the planning was approved, so they knew it was a guarantee. Some people would have got in before then who had the inner word, but let's say the people, they got the approval, went through and they were straight on the bandwagon to buy the land. They sit on that land for 10, 15 years. The return on their investment, especially if they're not carrying any debt on that land because it's money from the fund, is exponential. So my really big goal is to create buildings as such, not necessarily land subdivisions, although we will do that. I want to create buildings where you essentially never have to leave the building. So if I think about like all the brands that I really respect in Australia, so brands like Merivale, for example, with the hospitality space. I think Justin just started a few venues down here, like the Lawn Hotel. There's one in the city he bought. Anyway, he's massive in Sydney. So he's like dialed the hospitality space. And then I think about like what Crown Towers is in Sydney with the residential space and the prestige around that building. And then I think about all the other things people love and they have to go everywhere to go and get them. I want to build buildings where the brand is so powerful that all of these different brands in the different sectors want to be inside of the building. So it's for the upper end of the market, obviously.
So how will the Henderson Group in their investment be different to another property investor who wants to create a building like that and an offer for? Because
we'll do it and they won't. It's like execution, right? Like I can say how we're going to be different, but at the end of the day, like we will do it. And other people may or may not. And there's going to be other players in the field, right? Like Tim Gurner's doing it now. He's mega. He's a long way down the road. I guess it's like saying what makes Harry Triggerboff different to all the other property developers who have tried. In reality, not a lot. They both buy land. They both build buildings. Harry Triggerboff's product probably isn't, what I aspire to build, but he's fucking built an incredible business. So he's better at it than everyone else.
I mean, you say that it's a very long way away, but I have to feel that you're just being humble. In 2018 on a podcast, you said, my own goal is to create something like $10 million of property. And if I can do that over the next 20 odd years, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And now your portfolio's a lot more than that.
Yeah, a little bit more. A little bit more.
So, I mean, you're incredibly ambitious.
Well, I have a long-term view. This goes back to the Gary Vaynerchuk thing, right? He talks about being ambitious but patient. So that in the day-to-day, it's like execution over everything and doing everything you can to move the needle forward, but understanding things don't happen overnight. So, if I look back on the 4 to 5 years that we've been in business now, some years it felt like I've shot the lights out and made so much progress. Last year, for example, felt the opposite to that. And that's just the ebbs and flows of business. But as long as you're doing the things every day which will move the needle forward eventually, you've just got to outwork everyone, consistently outwork everyone. I won't say outwork, I'm like be in the office 12 hours a day. Like it's just doing the consistent things every day and not getting bored. That's the outworking part, where a lot of people do the consistent things, probably get to a monetary level and go, fuck that. It's interesting, actually. I spoke to a friend of mine a few days ago who sold his business for just under $200 million.
Congratulations.
And not to me, to him. Congratulations,
but still,
Frank.
congratulations.
Yeah. And I said, man, it was interesting because I've been looking at the rich lists. So all the rich lists just come out, AFR, the Australian, etc. And I said, all of the guys and girls at the top of those rich lists have never exited their businesses. They still own and operate their businesses. And I said, all those people you see who sell their businesses, get on the list 1 year, and then they're gone. It's like because they exit, they get the reward of the financial gain. They lose that drive and that dog in them. And he was like, yeah, it's true. It's hard, right? Like when you got heaps of cash in the bank, like it's hard to get out of bed every day and do the doing. So I think that's the thing. Like I have no intention of ever exiting. Like my intention is to make sure that I do what I say I'm going to do. I'll get way more fulfillment out of that than getting a big fat check and not having to do anything again.
So you strike me as someone who likes to move quick and, who's, not overly worried about being perfect or perfectionism. But recently, and Hormozy said, I've heard him say recently, if it's worth doing well, or something, or like, just spend, he was saying how, he thinks about effort in terms of hundreds of hours, not just, hours or, how do you sort of reconcile moving quickly with doing things really well and choosing which things to do really, really well?
That's hard, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm a massive Hormozy fan. I'm not good at detail. Like I'm very bad at detail. And I'm very much like, if it's 60% of the way there, just go and do it and the rest will work itself out, which is how I operate. So, there's a lot of things that are not perfect and that's okay. But I think doing the thing at 60, 70% and then making sure it gets better over time is essentially the same thing as like doing hundreds of hours worth of work before actually executing, because you're doing the work while you're executing at the same time. So, Hormozy uses his book as an example. I rewrote the book 7 times, blah, 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 blah. That's true. And it had a huge impact, that book. But perfectionism or what he believes is perfect is a subjective thing, right? Like, sure, the book did really well and it did X, Y, and Z, but who knows if it would have done just as well if he only did 2 times, rewrote the book 2 times, that's his perception of what good and not good is. But I like the way he thinks about it. It's like if you put in an extra 300 hours instead of putting in only 100 hours, so you've done 400 total. So it's taking you 4 times the time. The return on your time might actually be 20 times. So I like the way that he thinks about like the arbitrage and the leverage. I just don't know if it's 100% true. I listened to a guy talk recently at a Taki Moore event that I was at a few weeks back in Noosa, and his name was Derek Sivers. You ever heard of him before?
No, I haven't.
Me either. I've never heard of him until I heard him talk, and now I'm fucking obsessed with this guy. Anyway, he sold his company in the early 2000s. It was something to do with CDs in the music industry, whatever, before streaming and all the rest of it. Sold his company for like 22 or 23 million bucks US. Donated the 100% of the money to charity. He's very smart how he did it. He transferred all the shares of his company into a charitable trust before he sold it, so he paid no tax on it. Money went to charity. Now it's gone to help all these musicians, and he's full minimalist. But the reason that he spoke is because he was talking about a book that he's just about to release called Useful, Not True. And the whole premise of the book is that we all walk around in our lives and we think that everything that we think, or we think a lot of things are true, like they are factually true. So we walk around in our lives and think that we believe something, we've created the belief, and it is 100% true. When the reality is, he's like, it's not true. Like the only true thing is that cup is sitting on that table. That's a factually true thing, right? But on a lot of the stories and the things that we walk around with thinking that the things are 100% true are just made up. It's just we create this story that then creates a belief, and then we go about our lives that are, living this life that this is true and this is not true based on our beliefs. So, for example, he used to sing, what time is it right now? 1:30, right?
Mm.
It's not really 1:30. It's at 1:30 for us, but is it 1:30 for someone in New York? Is it 1:30 for someone in Dubai? No. So that is not a factually true statement. Anyway, on the whole Mosey thing, what he believes is true is not necessarily true. It's just his truth. Yeah.
I like that. You also said, spoke to, Gary Vee's, long-term patience, short-term, speed of execution. He also speaks about, soft skills like being compassionate and being, and love and candor and these things. How do you incorporate that? Do you find that you need to slow yourself down and think about these things, especially in the context of your team and those who you're working with?
Yeah, and my partner and stuff as well.
Oh yeah.
I'm not good at that stuff.
I suck.
Yeah. So I've gotten much better at it. I'm still a novice. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to be like a great everything to everyone because I struggle with the more soft and gooey you are, and I guess the more compassionate, the less aggressive I feel in other areas of my life. Some days you wake up and you feel like, fuck, I'm going to get after it today. You just got that dog in you. And then some days you get up and you just feel really chill, really relax. It's just things that usually make you angry and pissed off wouldn't make you pissed off that day. Yeah, so I really struggle with if I get up and I'm soft and mushy and all the rest of it, I struggle in other areas then. So sure, I might be a compassionate dude, but I'm not aggressive in business and I'm not aggressive in life and I'm not acting quickly. So I think at this stage in my life, probably the most important thing is me having the drive and determination and the not taking no for an answer mentality, and then trying my best in the other areas, as opposed to trying my doing this really, really well and then maybe not having that about me.
In that same podcast in 2018 that you did, you said that part of your end goal was to have a lifestyle business that gave you freedom.
That's a lie.
I thought so.
Yeah. It's funny how things change. 2018, how old would I be?
22.
22. A lifestyle.
That was when you had 3 properties.
Yeah, what an idiot. What an idiot that guy was. That's why the goalposts changed, right? The 10 million property I thought was so out of reach at that time. I didn't really, when I said that statement, I wouldn't have believed it. Then you get there and all of a sudden you're like, wow. About what we believe. Again, Derek Sivers, right? What do we believe to be true? At that time, I probably didn't believe 10 mil, and now you get 10 mil and you're like, what really is true? The only real truth is you can get to when you finish.
You ooze confidence. Where does that come from?
Interesting. So
why do you believe in yourself to this level and have this level of conviction?
Yeah, I have not always been like that. So okay. I think, again,
take us on the journey.
A Hormozy thing is the way that you build confidence is by just creating an undeniable stack of proof, that you are who you say you are. That's the thing that Hormozy says. I
love that.
And it's true, man. I think the more consistent I've been, the more success in quotation marks I've had, and not just financial and business, but not drinking for 12 months and actually doing it. And then being fuck yeah, I did that, I didn't succumb to social norms. I didn't succumb to the time my mates were out at the pub and everyone was having a great time. All those little things every single day, that's the stuff I think builds self-confidence. When you're in private and you're by yourself, the things that you do that no one knows about, that's the stuff that build confidence. So I've just stacked a lot of those little wins, and I fall over. I fucking fuck up all the time. But the more and more you stack those little wins, I think the more confidence you build. So I'm doing 6Ks a day as a minimum every single day this year with running. The 6Ks is not a hard thing. The consistency of doing it every single day is the hard thing. So there's been multiple times this year where I've gotten home from the office at 8:30, had fucking food, gone up and got into bed, and then gone, fuck, I haven't done my run today. No one would have known whether I did it or not. But just getting out of bed, putting my joggers on at fucking 9:30, it would have been by that time, and going and running the 6Ks and then getting back in the bed. Those little things are the things that build self-confidence. And then again, saying you're going to do something and then actually executing and doing it, which not a lot of people can do. I think that's the thing that's over time. So since that interview in 2018 to now, that's what's changed.
Well, you're allowed to change your mind. Yeah.
And then I do it. I say I'm going to do it, and then I do it. Yeah, sure, you are allowed to change your mind. I agree. But the more vocal and public you can be about something and certain about what you want in that moment, then I think, you've got to commit. And I'm that committed to my goals. It's my screenshot every year on my phone. That's all I look at every day. What do I want to do in the business? What do I want to do personally? What do I want to do with my family? And what do I want to do in the community? So just making sure that you tick those boxes. And there's not a lot of them. It's just like, that's what I do every day.
My wallpaper is a black screen. I thought I was cool. That's definitely better.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong. I just know the type of guy I am. And the more I can look at it, the more I can, continue to reinforce that pattern. Because it's easy to do that shit at the start of the year. It's easy to set goals. It's easy when you're sitting around in December on the 28th of the month and there's just relaxed and you're all motivated. And then you get into real life and it's mid-March and you're like, don't have that motivation anymore. I've got money in the bank. I don't really need to do this. They're the things. So that's a good reminder. Like, don't be a bitch, Jack.
The tough times, the adversity. What's been along that journey? What's been the difficult things that have happened?
Oh man, fuck, it's constant, right? You always have adversity, just at different levels. Like, fuck, I got roasted last year in the media, like absolutely roasted. That was hard. That was like financially hard, and it was hard because it was like you start to believe the shit that they say and like look inwards and you're like, am I really the person that they're projecting me to be? When you go through school, everyone has their own adversities, right? Like whether it's racism or whether it's like, internal things like the girl that you like chose the other guy, not you. Like all those little things are things that have an impact on the way that you think and the way that you feel about yourself. So, again, I think the way that you get through those things is just to continue to work. Do the work every day that keeps reinforcing that you are who you think you are and you are who you say you are. And the thing with the adversity, I actually thought about this the other day while I was running. I get fucking great thoughts when I run, by the way, like incredible.
It's ROI positive.
It's so ROI positive because you have just the best endorphins running through your body and it just makes you, and I don't have my phone, like I've just got my watch and it doesn't get any notifications. And the thought was every time, maybe it's probably not even a real thing, but every time I feel like someone's betting against me, that's the thing that makes me like dig deeper than ever. So last year when all the media shit happened, like I didn't say anything about it. I left it, pretended like it wasn't there, but like it was deep down. I was like, these motherfuckers, like, trying to wreck my business based on nothing that was true. It was all false. And this quarter, the first quarter of this year, we were 90% up on our revenue first quarter last year. And like that little reinforcement of like, sure, the marketplace is slightly better, but I worked my fucking ring off. I tried lots of different little things. That shit's the reinforcing part. And the people who are the ones who want you to fall, want you to fail, they're always watching. You might not know it, but they're always looking, they're always commenting, they're always talking to someone about you. And the best way, again, another Hormozy thing, to shut people like that up without actually saying to them, fuck you, is just to make sure that they see every little win that you do in all areas of your life. I ran 100Ks the other day. I'm sure there were some fat motherfuckers who were watching my stuff who have comment.
I'm a fat motherfucker.
I don't believe so. I had some thoughts about who the people I was talking about are. There would have been people who see that shit and that would burn people internally, like the car you drive, all those little things. And I know people, it's not a good thing to have like chip on your shoulder and be spiteful, but you need something to drive.
There's a balance. There has to be, there's like you said, the drive doesn't come with nothing.
It's hard to get out of bed every day when everything's happy and dandy. When you've got heaps of money in the bank, you don't really need to work that much. When family life's beautiful, when health's great, like it's hard to live life when all that stuff is happening, right? Because you need some sort of drive.
Yeah. The chip on the shoulder, the immigrant mentality, the whatever. There's all these things that these very common.
And they're the little things that David Goggins talks about, having cookies in the cookie jar and always drawing on those little cookies to make sure that you get through those tough days. So that's how I think about adversity.
So when that stuff came out last year, like, fuck, it must have been difficult.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was happening for months and months and months before anything actually come out in the media. And to be honest, I didn't really pay much attention to it. Like I was getting hit up by ABC to chat, and I just kept on saying, "I'm not interested. Like fuck off. Run your story if you want to run your story. If not, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing." But what I learned is when they want something, and someone was obviously there, you know, directing the story, they will go and do whatever they need to do to generate some shit. The amazing thing was, it only took fucking 12 months, but 12 months later, Fair Trading come out after their big fucking bedazzling investigation that found sweet fuck all. So, you know, it didn't really matter. But yeah, it cost me millions of dollars. It cost me a lot of brand reputation. I
think the personal reputation damage is, yes, I mean, that's part of your brand.
Yeah, brand,
Sorry,
whether it's business brand or personal brand. Like it was damaging. Internally, like it was hard. You're like, fuck, is this? Then you just create, again, this belief in this story in your head that like, I feel like everyone watches.
But look, I mean, you're someone who holds yourself, I'm making, you know, I don't think it's a far reach, but you're someone who holds yourself accountable for absolutely everything that happens in your life.
Of course.
So what could you have done to have avoided that situation, do you think?
What could I have done to avoid the situation is, and one of my mentors, Babak Mawini, said this to me. He's a founder of Laser Clinics Australia, sold it for 600. He had some pretty negative media stories about his business journey when he was going through it, and one of those things cost him his business, or one of his businesses at the time. Anyway, he said to me, "Jack, that was the cheapest lesson you will ever get." And I said, "Oh, enlighten me." He said, well, at the end of the day, imagine if this happened when you're a $100 million company or a $200 million company. You know, it's much worse. And anyway, the biggest learning I had was, even if you don't need to tell anyone, just tell them. Be an open book. So the thing that everyone was, you know, digging into in that was the non-disclosure. You don't need to disclose unless you are taking a monetary benefit of both sides of a real estate transaction, of which we weren't doing. So we didn't need a disclosure. But just because we didn't need to doesn't mean we shouldn't have. So if it, you know, the people said the pub test, if it wouldn't, what's it called? Pass the pub test, then probably shouldn't do it. So, you know, I think what I need to think is not everyone thinks like Jack Henderson. So if I was the person who was buying the property through the buyer's agent, blah, 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 I wouldn't give a fuck. But
no, I wouldn't. No, because
a lot of people do.
how we're thinking about it, you know, in being in business is and you spoke about this, and because I was before preparing for this podcast, I was thinking, okay, what is the value of a buyer's agent? Because doesn't the property market sort of just sort itself out in terms of price and whatever? And you said it's about the buyer's agents, you know, network. It's about their obviously their their experience in the field and you know, negotiating for you. So it's not necessarily about that. So I would want my buyer's agent to be as well associated and as well networked and as deep in the industry as possible.
That's right. But again, young guy, outspoken, flashy, arrogant, cocky, whatever you want to call me, and however you perceive me, that's how people perceive me. So all they were looking for was a technicality, of which was actually not factual, but it was a technicality that obviously they ran with. And then, you know, like what was the other thing? The non-disparagement clause in our contract. It's not illegal to have a fucking non-disparagement clause in the contract. A lawyer wrote my contract. I didn't write it. I didn't go, I didn't know what the fuck a non-disparagement clause is. But again, the context people didn't have. The reason that clause was in the contract was because we bought a property for a client, of which they walked through, they bought the property, they loved it, settlement day come, they moved into the property and they go, now the styling furniture is in here. It's not as good as I thought it was. I'm like, okay. Well, unfortunately, I can't fucking get out my magic wand and make it better. Like you saw it. We did all the due diligence. You bought the property. Take some accountability. Anyway, and then they try to blackmail me and say, well, if you don't give us a discount on our fee, I'll write a 1-star Google review. And I was like, and this was in the early stage of the business. Like I'm being open now. And that was a big deal to us. So I rang my lawyer and I said, this motherfucker is doing X, Y, and Z. And he's like, okay, well, we can sue them. But that'll take a long time. It cost a lot of money. And I said, well, how do I make sure this never happens again? And the lawyer said, make sure you have a non-disparagement clause in you. And I was like, voila. So what they forgot to say was, Jack got blackmailed by some fuckwit client back in the day, and now all of a sudden, which just actually was no wrongdoing, and there's nothing wrong with having a non-disparagement clause in the contract. If again, most people who watch ABC Four Corners are probably not people who build mega businesses. But if you go to most
very left-leaning publication.
Yeah, well, if you go to most large commercial contracts, there will be something along the lines of that, whether it's called a non-disparagement clause or something else. Anyway.
I mean, there's also an expectation that if we're going to do business together, that we're going to sort our shit out between us, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, and what people think a non-disparagement clause is, I think they use the term a gag clause, which is completely false and incorrect. What a non-disparagement clause means is you cannot make any public statement that is false or untrue about our working relationship. So for example, someone wrote a 1-star Google review that was factually untrue. That is wrong. And I have the ability to sue you. And now my stance on it is, if you don't want to work with me and you don't like my contract terms, then turn around and walk out my door because I don't need you. That's my stance.
I think the Google reviews the least of it. I mean, if you're offering a shit product or a shit service in the market will gag you naturally. You don't need to worry about.
Of course,
you don't need to worry about the Google review.
Exactly. But anyway, you can probably see how fired up I got about that then. So, very good learning, and there's a few things that come off the back of it. One is it made me pivot and made me think about strategically, who do I want to work with now? Do I want to work with a lot of volume of clients?
So talk about client selection.
Yeah, it's been very important now. My clients are the best they've ever been in terms of like who we attract, who we work with, who I tell you're not working with us. It's either a hell yeah or it's a no. They're my two stances, and that runs through the business now. So the building company come off the back of it. Competitors or people who didn't like me got a quick win in the marketplace, go them. But it lit a little fire inside of my belly, which means I will get the long win. And it also reinforced the power of brand. Like the power of brand is everything, right? So publication like ABC, one of the largest in Australia, powerful. I was in the newspaper in Newcastle, powerful. My play now is, okay, they had their quick win on brand. We'll see who wins long term. I will have a bigger brand than both of those companies put together.
Yeah. And
people might think that's arrogant. Oh yeah, I'm sure you will, ABC, blah, blah, blah. I guarantee it. Because if you look now, most people don't go to major companies for information, right? Like most people go to individuals. They look at an individual for their information and the people they trust, not companies anymore. And I will win that game. So.
I mean, it is a beautiful lesson, isn't it? I don't think it doesn't really sound like anything. I don't think it set you back on that. It sort of put you forward.
Yeah, for sure. Like it was a blessing in disguise. It made us sharpen up, made us tighten up, made us get really clear on why I was doing what I was doing and where I'm going. I mean, look internally as to the individual. And for some people, they wouldn't even touch them. And then it also made me think about like, hey, you say you want to be this, decabillionaire and you want to build these mega companies and all the rest of it.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Well, it's like if you want to do that shit, you don't think this stuff's going to happen. Like you don't think your name's going to get like what's his name the other day? He got hammered in the media. Li Collection. The guy, the Li Collection, or we call it the cars. Lives
the Ferrari guy. No,
what's his name? Lawrence. Like the ultra successful guy, worth multi-billion, and the AFR hammered him. The Australian. It was like an ambush. He just got absolutely hammered because he's got an online gaming company, and he's a horrible person because he allows people to gamble and he allows people. It's like, the fuck are you talking about, dude? Anyway, I'm like, it's going to continue to happen, right? You're not going to be able to please everyone. Obviously, Lawrence annoyed someone and they've come after him in the media. Like, that's how the world works. And the people who mind don't matter and the people who matter don't mind. So that's my take on that now.
How do you balance being young and not or maybe you don't give a shit, is being looked at as being arrogant or whatever. How do you balance that with humility?
The people who really know me know that like I'm a very generous person. I really care about the people closest to me, and you know, they understand that the public perception and making sure that you're out there and you're in people's faces is called marketing. You know, so but yeah, you like gonna piss people off, you know, like that's the reality. But if you're conservative, you don't say anything, you don't put yourself out there online, you don't get seen by millions of people, it's hard to grow. You know, how do you know who I am?
On social media, of course.
There you go.
So with all the, I mean, a lot of your content is around, you know, whether it's client success or case studies or sort of, you know, answering questions, still about residential property.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, obviously it's to build your brand, but is that also top of funnel for your business?
Yeah, of course. Like it's the best form of marketing because people don't feel like they're being sold to. I'm giving people a lot of education for free, Gary Vee style. I'm sharing everything that we're doing. I'm telling people how to do it. I'm telling people how much we spend on renovations, on properties, where we buy, what we buy, how we buy it. Like literally you can follow my content and do exactly what we do. But the difference between them and us will be the execution piece. So yeah, it's like it's strategy, but it's also long-term. Like there's nothing that can compare. That's why my following now is just compounding so quickly, is because the more people that know about me, the more people know that I put out really good content that's super informative. And the more people that they'll tell their friends and family and all the rest of it. And that just grows and grows and grows and grows. So by the end of this year, my goal, which is on that wallpaper, is to be the most followed property professional in Australia, which I will be. And then from there, we'll continue to scale. Because that's the thing, like personal brand is the thing that opens up more doors than anything.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So a lot of the property investment content that you do is, just from stuff that I've consumed, is around buying, you know, properties in good location, and then being smart about how you can increase the rental yield, and then refi off the value that you add to the property.
So essentially, I teach our strategy. I try and teach it in its most basic form because you need to, you know, top of funnel, you need to be as simple as possible. So I teach people what I've done myself. I teach people what, you know, all of our ultra successful and ultra wealthy clients do. And I just try and boil it down into the most simple factor. Most people, when they go into property investment, completely fuck it up. Like they buy the wrong properties, they listen to the wrong advice. Most people try and make money and get rich overnight, which is the worst thing you can try and do. So I just try and tell people exactly my reality, my truth, which is buy really good quality property in good quality locations. So if you've got $1 million budget, get in the best location you can. Don't try and split it into two $500,000 purchases. Buy a property that you can add some value to, manufacture some growth. Why not? Which means when you're buying the asset, more of the money you're spending will go into getting into a better quality location as opposed to getting into a really nice looking property in a poor location. Add some value to it. And then instead of selling the property, paying tax, paying selling fees, paying stamp duty again to get into another property, why not just leverage off that one to get into the next one? And if you can do that twice, why not do that 3 times or 10 times or 100 times? That's the mentality. And it's obviously different for every single person. Oh, how do you refinance, serviceability, blah, blah. Of course, if you're on $100,000 a year, you can't build a $100 million portfolio. It's just simple maths, right? Like, but it's relative to every individual. Like if you're on $100 grand a year and you can build a portfolio over 20 years that replaces your income, that's a great outcome. If you're on $1 million income and you can build a portfolio in 20 years that replaces that, it's also a great outcome. The numbers are just slightly different.
What does the content production workflow look like for you? Do you have a team of people working on it? Obviously, you're doing a lot of it yourself, with, you know, just quick videos, answering questions.
Yes, we had a team of 7 in the media that all worked under our brand. I got rid of most of them because the model I was trying to do at the time was do external media to pay and cash flow my media team. What I got to learn was that media and creatives are not the most productive people when they're left to run on their own. So a job that was taking us 5 hours was taking us 15 hours. It was actually costing me more money than it was making me. So I scrapped that, and now I've just got 2, and a third hire is coming at the moment. who just do all of my content. So I've got full-time videographer, full-time editor. We had 2 offshore editors, and I've got a photographer, videographer, editor, sort of like a hybrid role coming and starting with us. And that's just so we can get more volume. So
what does the content strategy look like at the moment?
Content strategy is I have a few podcasts that I do. It's easy. It's long form. We get an audio out of it. We get the video out of it. We get all the clips out of it. I do a lot of just like piece to cameras through like Q&A, through, green screen on TikTok, all that type of stuff. So like when I'm in Melbourne, for example, I'll have content that's already loaded and sent to me through Teams. I go and select the stuff that I want to upload, and then I'll just do my own stuff because I'm obviously not in the office. And then LinkedIn, again, it's videos. I do a lot of copy, like a lot of text, written stuff. I've got a copywriter also who works for us who just transcribes all of my articles, all of my videos and turns them into articles. What else do we do? Obviously still image photography, like So slightly cheaper in both, you get sub $1 million, 800 to $1 million bucks. You get something in those 2 locations. Strong track record of performance. Again, blue chip in their locales and established locations. And then obviously if you've got a bigger budget, then get closer to the money.
How important is it to be able to add value to get to that 5-6% yield?
Not really. I mean, to get to a 5 or 6% yield, you're not going to do that in Melbourne because you can't build second dwellings and stuff like that. Yield is important when cash flow is lacking. Like if I said to you, hey, here's a property that's going to cost you 20 grand a month, but you had $100,000 of surplus income, are you worried about it?
No.
Of course not, because you've got $100,000 surplus income. If I told you here's a property that's cost you 20 grand a month, you've only got $10,000 surplus income, are you worried?
I'm going to drown.
Probably, yeah. So it's relative to the individual. But the thing we love about buying properties where you can add the second dwellings and manufacture the yield is that you don't have to then forego location to get a yield which you can hold. Because what most people do is, okay, I want to buy a property for 600 grand and I don't want it to cost me anything. Okay, well, let's go find a location where you get an average yield of 5.5%. When you get into a location that has a median or an average yield of 5.5%, the reason it's got a high yield is because the growth hasn't been there, which means the rental growth has outweighed the property price growth. You don't make money in real estate by rental income, I can assure you. You make money in property by putting in $1, buying a $5 asset, and that $5 asset going to $10, and you only ever put in $1. That's a 500% return on your investment. That's incredible. So what we try and do is let's not forego growth. Let's keep that front and center. Let's get into a good location, which is likely to have not a great yield, 2, 3, 4% gross. But if we can buy an asset that has a strong track record of performance, 10, 15, 20, 30 years worth of consistent growth, and then add a second dwelling, add a granny flat to take the median or the gross yield for that property from 3.5%, 4% to 5.5%, 6%. Now we've got the best of both worlds because we've got a property that's got long-term growth prospects and has performed up until this point. And I know people say, oh, it's not a good indicator of future performance. I don't fucking know too many areas in Australia that have been great for 50 years and all of a sudden go, oh, these are not, like, I can't imagine Toorak going and not being the best suburb in Melbourne. Can you? You reckon all the rich people are going to want to move from Toorak and maybe go out to like
Frankston? No.
Cooks Hill or something? What's Point Cook? Sorry.
No.
Me either. Same in Sydney. Point Piper. You reckon everyone's going to sell up their waterfronts and go and live in fucking Western Sydney? Probably not.
You just look at history. You can just look at history and human behavior. It's not going to happen.
And that's the big thing that people don't get, which I don't talk about too often. Human behavior is one of the biggest drivers of property price growth. You say you're starting out right now, you're earning $80,000 a year. You've got a partner, boy, girl, whoever it is. They're also earning 80 grand a year on 160 grand. You can afford to get into a location which is 30K from the CBD. 5 years on, you and your partner now are earning 120 grand each. You've got 240 of combined income. What do you want to do? You want to buy a better car? You want to buy a better house? You want to go on better holidays? So what happens? You move 15Ks in, more affluence, more status. You now go from 120 to 240 each, 480. What do you want to do? You want to move closer. You want to go on better holidays. You want your kids to go to that private school down the road. That's the human behavior element of real estate that no one talks about. You don't go from earning 120 to 240 and go, fuck it, let's go out to Point Cook. You don't do it, right? Like, so there isn't that status there. It's usually a starting point. It's affordable, but who wants to invest into affordable location? You want to capture top 1% because as everyone knows, you've only got to do a quick Google. Are the wealthiest people in the world getting wealthier or poorer? The wealth gap's getting wider. So if the wealth gap's getting wider and the rich are getting richer, don't you want to appeal to those people? There's a reason LVMH is the most valuable company in the world, one of them. Because they control your brands like Chanel, Louis Vuitton. Like, you got to watch what people do, not what they say. Everyone wants to look rich. Even if you're not rich, you want to look rich. So if you want to look rich and people all aspire to be rich, and what do rich people do? They live in good areas.
Yes.
And rich people usually don't have budgets when you get to like the proper wealth.
I mean, the big thing really is, everyone sort of knows you should buy a good property and you should just buy more of them. The serviceability issue, issue or not issue, or just
it's an issue, of course. It's an issue. There's no doubt about it. Serviceability is an issue, but serviceability is relative to how much you earn. If you earn 150 grand a year, unfortunately, you are going to have a property portfolio that is reflective of that. Now, I can teach you all the ways that we can get creative with serviceability. We can create different structures to hide some debt. And then you can maybe get 3 or 4 properties as opposed to getting only one. But your main issue is still serviceability because you will not have a serviceability issue with the banks then saying the banks don't go, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, sorry, you got to pay down some debt or you got to increase your income. You have a serviceability issue internally because I can get you 3 properties inside of a trust, but you've still got to be able to afford to hold them. You've still got to be able to cash flow them every week, which unfortunately then becomes an income. So the issue is not with the marketplace. The issue is the individual. Earn more money. How do I earn more money? Become more valuable. That's the reality.
What's the market trend with people using buyer's agents and working with buyer's agents?
Is growing rapidly, all thanks to Ben Handler, Mr. BAI.
Educate me, please.
As he created a course called the Buyer's Agent Institute, which is like just dramatically increase the awareness for buyer's agents. He's a founder of Cohen Handler. Was by one of the first buyer's agencies in Australia. His ex-business partner was recently on the show Lux Listings. Will you watch that?
I've seen it. I've never watched it. Yeah.
He was the guy who founded that with him, exited out of that company, then started an education platform, has trained a lot of buyer's agents, which naturally has just made it seem more common in the marketplace.
So like as a consumer myself, I'm thinking, shit, I could probably just look on realestate.com.
You can.
What's the value prop?
You reckon you know as much about property as I do?
Fuck no.
You reckon I'm worth 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand?
I don't know.
That's the value prop.
Yeah, because you did say on another podcast, the reason that you were using buyer's agents was also to have access to these networks.
Of course, everyone gets it wrong.
Yeah.
The value of a buyer's agent isn't off market. The value of a buyer's agent isn't can they save you money in negotiation. That's how poor people think. That's how people who want a quick win think, right? That's how people who want to spend $1 and get an instant $1.20 in return. That's how they think. How wealthy people think is, interesting, if I pay this guy 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand, whatever it is, some of our clients have had us 6 figures, multiple 6 figures for fees. Do I think that over the next 20 years, this property is going to perform better potentially than the one I pick? 1% per annum on a $1 million property over a 20-year time horizon. Do you think that's going to happen?
It's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. And then on top of that, depending on who they are, some people don't give a fuck about my network and all the rest of it, which is fine. But if you're young and ambitious, so if I look at my own experience when I use Chris Gray, I knew where I wanted to go. I wanted to get around wealthy people. I want to learn how wealthy people operate. I want to learn about business.
You took a $30,000 loan to get into a yacht so you can
$20,000
loan.
That's how I thought, right? I've always had that mindset. How much do I need to spend to get close to these people? Because proximity is power. Tony Robbins talks about it all the time. And if you are someone who, like me, just grew up in a normal suburban neighborhood, my parents were both employees. They did very well for themselves, but it's not like they were could jump on their phone to all the private school friends they went to school with and
Let's
be like,
get Timmy
hey,
a job.
can you help out Jack and get him in the door of this private equity firm, or can you get him in the door of this large real estate company? Or that's not the reality. That's not the reality of the majority of people in Australia. Like, it's the 1%, the other 99% wonder how the fuck the 1% do it. So my mentality was, how do I get as close as possible to the 1%? And you can't do it for free. You know how many people message me and go, hey bro, you know, can I buy you beer? Or hey bro, can I do this? Or it's like, no, why the fuck would I do that? Like, I'm more than generous online. I'm always giving people advice, and I'm always giving people, no, not advice, sorry, I'm giving people experiences and what I would do.
Financial advice only. That's what he's giving.
Yeah, that's right. Just direct financial advice.
Obviously not.
Of course. That'd be the next ABC.
Oh my gosh.
Financial advice. But it was like, you got to pay to play. That's the world. And if you don't like that.
Who said that? I love that. I think about that all the time. I heard someone say, this is a pay to play world.
I've said it for a long time. I heard it from someone, obviously. But that's the reality. Like, you have to pay to play.
Yeah.
You might get a few little wins that you think are free, but you know, you want to be the best and be the biggest and build a good life for yourself. You've either got to spend a lot of time on it, but guess what time equates to? Money. So why not just pay and expedite that process?
Why do you think that Australian cultural mindset is so short-sighted in that regard?
It's not just Australia. It's like, it's everywhere, right? Everyone wants the quick thing.
I think in other markets, people are a bit more flexible and can see a little bit more.
Yeah, that was probably not an accurate thing for me to say. I don't know what other people do, but in Australia, I just assume that other people outside of Australia think long term. I think because most people hate their fucking life. Most people put on a front. Most people are not happy.
They don't have purpose, right?
Potentially. You know, I've got this theory about why people have kids and get married, often very early. And my girlfriend doesn't like this theory, by the way. My theory is most people go through their, early 20s, teens, 20s. They go through that party stage, everything's new, exciting, fun. And then they get to their early 20s and a lot of people have kids. A lot of people get married. And a lot of people do that. And if I just look at my own friendship group that I grew up with, like I see it a lot. They do that because they often, the fun and the purpose and all the other things that they thought were exciting out of their life are gone. So after a while, it gets boring, right? And they go, oh, what's the next thing to excite me? Well, getting married is exciting for 3 or 4 years, right? Like you get engaged, you plan the wedding, you get married, you're then married for a few years and it's fun, exciting. Having a kid's fun and exciting, right? Because it's new, you're newborn, blah, blah, blah. But then what happens? There's a reason more than 50% of people get divorced. Like, it's because they're doing it in the start for the wrong reasons. They were just filling a little void. And again, this is my theory. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but they were filling a void. Like, let's get married. Again, 5 years later, they realize, oh, fuck, I'm in the same position as I was prior because I did 5 years worth of partying and that become old. Now I did 5 years worth of married and that now is becoming old. And then there's divorce. And then all of a sudden people have this like midlife crisis or they go through their life and go, what is life all about? That little thing I think clicks in their mind, like, I've just wasted 30 years of my life. I'm going to die soon. Like, I'm halfway through my life and I can't get that time back. And that's why people have that. It's good because they're lost and they're just trying to fill a void as opposed to like really just slowing down and going, what do I want to do? Do I really want to be with this person?
Do you know what, like for me personally, right? Like, I don't necessarily want to have kids right now, but I'm thinking if I extrapolate my life out 20 years or 30 years, I'm thinking no matter what business success I have, I'm not sure if it's going to be more fulfilling than having amazing children. I'm not sure. And this is just based on my personal value structure.
For sure.
And so that's why I want to have kids.
Yeah.
But I think people do those things for the wrong reasons, which is, to your point.
Yeah. I mean, again, like I said, it's a theory. It's the way that I'm thinking. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right, but you just like look at trends and you're like, well, maybe if you didn't have children with that person when you were 22 or 23 or 25 and waited 3 or 4 years, do you reckon you would have realized that they're maybe not the right person, maybe not the right, but it's because maybe life is a bit boring, a bit mundane, the same shit every day. And you go, why don't we have a kid? Yeah, let's have a kid. Oh, life's exciting all of a sudden for 2 years.
Do you feel like, being in the action, being in the action of the business, on the battlefield every day, fighting this war, running your business,
Yeah.
that satisfies something in you that sort of, if you're just working a normal job and
Without a
whatever
doubt.
that. And so does it almost make you quite mellow in other parts of your life? Or do you attack life in that way in all regards?
And this is, it's a progressive thing that happens, right? Like I'm really into, not health and fitness, but I'm into my running at the moment, and I have done for a few years. And it's just about like, fuck, how far can I push this, and then you get competitive and you're looking on Strava at what everyone else is doing and all the rest of it. Like the thing, like, and I'm sure that I'm going to go through a stage where I fucking get up every day and I'm like, this business is a bit boring now, a bit over it, like what else can I do? Is there something that I can spice it up? But like boring is what creates the mega success. The people who can get used to the boring, you look at all the people who've been in their businesses 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Like I'm pretty sure Triggerboff, I know I've used his name a few times, like he's in his 90s now, I'm pretty sure. He started that business, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, but it's like late teens, early 20s. 70 fucking years. And he didn't have to do it a long time ago, but he's used to the boring. It excites him, and that's the thing. Like it fills that, because as humans, I think we have desires, purpose, right? Yeah. Like
fulfillment.
That's right. So I know kids do that for a lot of people. Like you hear it all the time. Oh, I do this for my kids. I'm like, I do this for me, motherfucker. I get up every day and live my life for me. And I'm sure that will change one day. But I think a lot of people throw out their own dreams and throw out their own wills and desires and stuff because that's too hard. It's easier to do it for someone else.
I mean, what you're saying is very confronting, but I think there is some truth to people saying, I do this for my kids as I don't want to use the word excuse, but as a convenient reason for not chasing what they want to chase.
Of course. Like you see it all the time. I grew up racing motocross and stuff. And mate, you used to see it all the time. Like the dads living through their kids. Come on, mate, get out there. Like forcing them to do what they wanted to do. You see it in the professional sports people all the time. Their dad was the one there, like, come on, son, because they never did it. It's like they forced their lack of determination, belief, drive onto their kids because they never got there themselves. And often they're the kids that turn out to fucking hate what they do when they realize that they can think for themselves. They're like, oh, why am I doing this? I don't like this.
So what does give you that? So, what does give you purpose and what does give you
the challenge every day of doing what I internally believe and think that I can do. That's what gives me drive. Like having wins along the way, thinking something and then actually doing it and going, fuck yeah. Took a little bit longer than I thought, but instead of just giving up and going, oh yeah, Adrian Portelli, Mr. Lambo, everyone talks about him. I met Adrian on the Bull Rush rally a couple of years back before I knew he was a billionaire. And anyway, I've listened to him talk about a few things and I think it was his mum or someone said to him, you're just a dreamer, and now on his wall, and I'm pretty sure it's in his office, says I'm a dreamer. And it's how most people live. I was like, oh, it's just a dream, son, or just a dream, daughter, whatever it is. So that's the thing that gives me like will. It's like you think you're going to do something, and in business, like it's little things. So it's like, let's hit like I said, we did 90% up on our first quarter last year. We had our KPIs and we hit that. Like that little win, like fuck yeah, we're on the right path. Let's up the ante a little bit more.
And how do you transfer that to your team? How do you give them purpose?
Man, they feel it. Like they feel it when the leader's there, and that's why you often see in these big companies. My belief is you often see in these big companies is like when the founder takes a big cash check off the table, or the original founder of the company is no longer there, they sort of lose their way, right? Because there's that intrinsic sort of drive and energy that comes from the founder. Mate, my team, I've got bigger dreams than all of them. Like I'm always, we just had our team retreat Thursday, Friday of last week. I made like a full open book P&L. I showed exactly how much money we made or didn't make last year. I showed them where we lost money. I said, this is where I want to be. This is our first quarter this year. This is the difference it makes. This is where we're going. And like, it's my dream at the end of the day. It's what I want to push, but people buy into that stuff, like.
I mean, I think like in Australia, life is so good. I think a big problem among young people, our generation, maybe a bit older, is there is that lack of purpose because, what are we actually fighting for?
Yeah. And I think I got lucky. Yeah. I think I got lucky that I always wanted to do, whether it's luck or not, who knows, but I always wanted to do something to do with property. When I was in primary school and started high school, I wanted to be an architect. Like I used to draw houses all the time. I used to draw floor plans all the time at home, like constantly. Love drawing. Love the passion. And I'm just lucky that when most people think real estate, they think, oh, you can make a lot of money in it. Anyone you ask. Like I was in an Uber actually coming to the airport this morning and so what do you do? I said, I'm going to Melbourne. I've got a few things on this week. And what do you do? Property. Oh, how much money can you make in property? It's just like the first thing that people think. So I'm lucky. But if someone thinks, I want to be a drawer. Actually, that same Uber driver, this is a perfect example. That same Uber driver said to me, he grew up in Dubai, he was of Indian descent, and he said, I always wanted to be a filmography person. And my dad said to me, son, you shouldn't do that because there's no money in it. You should become an engineer because as long as there's earth to build on, there will be construction. So he then went and studied engineering, did a master's of engineering, went and worked in civil engineering, worked in structural engineering, and then got a job in the council in Newcastle. Hence the reason he moved from Melbourne to Newcastle to get a job in the council, some engineering job. He just got sacked. He got made redundant. Central Coast Council he worked for, sorry. And he was saying that, it's so funny, this fucking story. It's crazy. He was saying that he was driving Uber now and he feels lost. Like, I don't know what I should do. Like, what is real estate good? You make money in real estate? I was like, dude, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I'm just going to tell you what I think. If you're the best videographer, fucking filmmaker in the world, how much money do you reckon is there?
Shitload.
How much money do you reckon Steven Spielberg makes? I don't know how much it's worth. I don't even really know who the fucking dude is. I just know he's a big film producer or something. A lot. How much do you reckon the best real estate agent in Australia makes? A lot. How much do you reckon the worst filmmaker makes? Nothing. How much do you reckon the worst real estate agent makes? Nothing. I said, it's not the thing that the money is in. It's the individual and how much they love that thing and how much better they are than everyone else. It's the 1% of every industry makes 99% of the money. So you just need to go find the thing that you're going to be the 1% in and the money will fucking come. And I said, I know it's easier said than done because you need to live every day, like blah, blah, blah. I said, but you drive an Uber now. But it can't get much fucking worse. Like, you know what I mean? Drive Uber at night, go and do whatever you want to do in the day. And eventually your daytime income will surpass what you're earning in the night and you're off to the races and you're doing what you love. And he was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I was like, that's just what I think, dude. Like, if you're the best excavator operator in Australia, the best construction company, how much money do you reckon there is? A fuckload. How much money do you reckon is for an excavator operator who doesn't like what he does? He just does it because he fell into it. Nothing. $30 an hour. That's how much there is in it. So it's like, that's how I think about it. Podcasting. How much money is in podcasting for Stephen Bartlett? He's in Australia right now. Tens of millions a year.
It's either negative or it's a few hundred mil.
Right? It's not negative because you're going to get business off the back of this and exposure. Like it's a net positive. But like, that's the difference, right? So that's how I think about it.
What's the short-term vision? Because, we change our mind and things can move. What are you thinking in the next 3 years?
Next 3 years, so I've got a lot of developments currently where we own sites that have come out of the ground this year. So very excited about that. Henderson Advocacy we're opening our fixed Brisbane office, because most of the stuff we've been doing has been like, what's it called? Like remote as such. So we have got the ground in every state, but then we don't have a physical premises there.
Yeah.
So Brisbane will be up and running and Melbourne will be up and running by the end of this year, which is very exciting. So we'll have fixed premises Sydney, Newcastle, Brisbane, Melbourne, which we only need one in every state. It's not like a real estate agency where you need one in every town. We'll be doing 20 million bucks in revenue. They're my goals. I'll be as fit as fuck. And I'll be the most followed and most well-known property professional in Australia. That's the goal.
Who should get in touch with Jack Henderson?
I don't know. What they should do first is follow me on the socials for 3 months, work out whether you like me or don't like me, and then get in touch. But like, essentially, like, all of our clients, we have two ends of the spectrum. A lot of clients, young, ambitious guys who see me as like, I want to be like Jack, which is totally fine because I did the same thing with Chris Gray. So first-time investors, first-time buyers. And then the other end of the spectrum is high-paid executives, middle management, whatever it is, something in combined income of 200 to 300 plus.
The time poor who are rich thinkers.
Yeah. And then a lot of business owners. Like, we deal with a lot of small business owners now.
Because small businesses spit out a fair bit of cash.
Yeah, it can do. Something that really, like, this, if you got a business owner listening to this, whether it's, joinery or anything else, I listened to a lady talk, founder of Kiki K, Christina Carlson. That was $100 million a year business. Ended up going belly up because of COVID and all the rest of it. And I listened to her talk probably, 4 or 5 months ago through EO, and they lost everything, had zero left at the end of it. And I can't remember if I asked the question during the talk, after, or anyway. One thing I just couldn't wrap my head around is, like, I think there's a balance between going all in the business and just making sure you have something for a rainy day. So, like, if you're a business owner who's 3, 4, 5, 10 years into a journey and you have no real hard assets outside of your business, I think that's dangerous. Like, I believe in going all in, like, no doubt about it. And it's easy to say because I'm the property guy, but, like, you've only got to have one property outside of your business, right? Which could be your family home, could be an investment. But if anything was to ever go wrong with your business and you were to go to zero, even if you had to sell the property, you've still got that capital to get started with again. But I listened to Christina talk and it was like, she went to zero and it was literally zero. And like, it started again. You've got no assets to leverage off. You've got nothing to start with. And she was very vulnerable and very open with it when I was like, respect. But, that was a big, like, eye opener for me. And then the more I think about how many business owners that I know that are the same, don't have any assets behind them, or they wait until, like, they're 20 years into the journey, 15 years in the journey to start investing. And we see those people every day come to us like, hey, I've got this great plumbing business. Hey, I've got this great insurance business. Hey, I've got this great landscaping business. Hey, whatever it is, ice cream business, whatever. I've just focused on business and, it's really profitable now and I've got some cash sitting there, so I want to start investing. Which I get because they got all in their business. But, like, there would have been times during that journey where they could have just pulled a little bit off and got started, and just cements your financial foundation, I think. So
yeah, it's important to pull profits out of the business. The business should be spitting out money for you.
Yeah, I mean, 90% of your profit should go into your business and grow it until the point in which you are happy with whatever it's doing. And there's only really two outcomes: you're growing or you're shrinking. There's no really in between. No. Even if your revenue's staying the same, you're shrinking.
Yes.
Yeah, but, like, because most business owners still pay themselves a salary. Salary, you can still earn an income to go and buy property. So I just think, it's important to have, whether it's property or other asset class, I think it's just important to have a financial foundation that if something was to ever happen, you've got something to lean on.
Is there anything we need to talk about today?
Man, we've covered a lot. I'm very excited about all these 30 and 60-second clips I'm going to get off the back of this podcast.
Why did you say yes to the podcast, by the way?
I say yes to everything. Yeah. You'll notice when I think you said, can I pick you up from the airport? Yeah, I said no to that. That was just because I
was hoping you'd say no. I'm joking.
You shouldn't have asked. No, I say yes to all opportunities. But so I don't know, I just think about things like, one, what's the worst case scenario about this? Nothing. You meet some weird dude you got to spend an hour with. At least I get some content off the back of it. Best case scenario is I meet a legend who we become friends. And that's what's happened. So it's been great. I say yes to everything.
Thank you so much for your time.
Legend, bro. Thank you.
Take care. That's it.
God bless.